Okay, folks, that was pretty hype, at least for me, and this is the exciting news for today. I had to make a video on this today because, I'm sorry, I'm really excited for this. I know Total War Warhammer 2 is not a game that gets featured on the channel a whole lot anymore. I used to do videos on it. I don't do a whole lot of videos on it anymore, mainly because the channel is focused largely on, like, you know, turn-based strategy games, more slow-acting strategy games, Dominions a lot, you know, all that stuff. But I love the game. I still do. I still play it occasionally. I don't play it as much as I used to, but a big part of that is because I love to play Skaven, and the Skaven are in a little bit of a sad spot right now, multiplayer-wise, but this DLC, the Prophet and the Warlock DLC, promises to be a big game-changer in that way. So I just wanted to make a quick video on this. That trailer looked very, very interesting to me, mainly because of the new units that are coming. Now, I don't think, does it list all the new units here? Clan Scryer, 9 new battlefield units. It doesn't list them all here, so let's actually hop over to Steam real quick, where it shows what all of the new units are. Alright, so here on Steam, Ikit Claw, the Warlock Engineer, the new Clan Scryer Lord. Ikit Claw is going to be fantastically interesting. He's armored, to some degree at least. He's probably anti-large, given that his weapon is a halberd, or a spear-like kind of device, with a flamethrower built into his claw, which is all kind of cool. And, of course, he's a Rumen caster, so he's going to be a Lord-level, unique, legendary Rumen caster, which will be great for the Skaven. But more importantly than that, will be the unique units. Skaven are only getting 3 unique units compared to the Lizardmen 6, I believe, but they're getting a whole bunch of Regiments of Renown and some other mechanics which very much make up for it, and the 3 units they're getting are badly needed and promising to be extremely interesting. First of all, the Rattling Guns. Now, it says Weapons Team in the trailer we saw there. It looked like just individual rats carrying the Rattling Guns, but maybe it'll have another model carrying ammunition for them or something. In any case, Rattling Guns are Gatling Cannons. They're anti-infantry gun teams, and it says here they also suppress their targets, slightly misspelled, which slows their movement, so they have a slow effect on hit. That is going to be, well, depending on what stats and price the Rattling Guns have, they could be very, very important in multiplayer, or they could be pretty much worthless, because I assume they'll have, like, regular kind of infantry gun-ish range, and at that range, you only get off a few shots before somebody, you know, is hitting you with an axe. So the slow effect could be incredibly impactful, or it could not matter all that much. We'll see. The Warlock Jezzails, however, are going to be a huge game changer. Pretty much, like, unless they're absolutely destroyed by pricing or something. Assuming they're like, in terms of damage output, they are like deck gunners, or perhaps a little bit more damaging, they're going to be big. They have the highest quality shields, which I assume means silver shields, so 55% damage mitigation from ranged fire, and they have the shield breaker effect, so they reduce people's missile block chance. That's really important. Warlock Jezzails with long range, armor piercing, and shield breaker promise to be an extremely effective cavalry counter and monster counter for the Skaven, so that really kind of changes up the way other people have to deal with the Skaven. Also, Doomflayers. Doomflayers are something that you didn't see in, I think they popped up relatively late in the Skaven's, like, tabletop existence, but they're like smaller chariots, so they're going to be units of armor-piercing anti-infantry chariots, I would assume. Obviously, this is sort of an assumption, but from what we saw in the trailer, the rats riding the little wheels into the Lizardmen lines, that promises to be what they are. So all of those, very, very important. Also, the Warlock Master. Personally, I would have called this the Master Warlock, but Warlock Master, fine. He's the master of the Warlocks, I guess. And who is a Lord caster, uses the Lore of Ruin, may be upgraded to ride a Doomflayer or Doomwheel in battle. That's fantastic. That's amazing. A fast-moving, armor-piercing, heavily armored Lord choice for Skaven is just what the Doctor ordered. That could easily be competitive with Skrulk in multiplayer. I mean, right now, like, Skrulk is pretty much the only high-tier Skaven competitive choice. All the other lords are kind of sad comparatively. A Seer on a Bell ain't bad. But if you can get a Warlock Master on a Doomwheel, or a Doomflayer even if you want to be cheaper, and if they have, you know, high move speed and good armor, well, that changes the game somewhat. So, fantastic. Also, lots and lots of campaign mechanics. The Forbidden Workshop that lets you upgrade units and build special regiments of renown. Doom Rockets, which are an army ability you can build and launch a nuke in combat, which is hilarious. The Doom Sphere, so you can blow up enemy settlements, which you have settled underneath, using the... where did it go? Using the new Under Empire mechanic, which comes... I'm not sure where they talk about that. They talk about it somewhere, but the Under Empire mechanic is going to let you have, like, Pirate Cove-ish things. I haven't pre-ordered this, but I am right after the video. Pirate Cove-ish things that you can build underneath other people's settlements, and that have a chance to be discovered depending on what you do with them, and yada yada yada. Which all sounds amazingly fun and very Skaven. I'm super, super glad this stuff is making it into the game. On top of that, you also have all the Regiments of Renown. A Regiment of Renown Warp Lightning Cannon that increases ability cooldown times for the targets. So in other words, fuck you Greenskins, fuck you Wizards. If Ikit Zap Zap gets shooting, it's just going to prevent the target from using abilities, basically. A flaming attack. So this is essentially the Warriors of Dragonfire Pass, but clan rats, it looks like. The Plague Pack grants immune to psychology to in an area of effect to nearby friendly units. That's incredibly powerful for Skaven. Depending on price, these guys could easily be auto-include in a lot of matchups. Rattling guns with concealment bombs, so they can be stalking at unspottable. That's amazingly fun. Council Guard, unbreakable Halberd Stormvermin with the Guardian ability. Fantastic, fantastic bodyguards for your lords. Stalk and Snipe Warlock Jezzails, Natty Bubo's sharpshooters. This combined with this could make for a really, really nasty punch to like a ninja rat army, an Eshin army, an all-stalking army. That would be very cool. And a Doom Wheel that fires extra powerful missiles that lower leadership. As well as the Dwarf Thing Menace, which has the Sundar armor and causes fear. Also very, very neat. And then they have some additional Regiments of Renown available only in campaign through the Forbidden Workshop. Warplock Jezzails that blind the target. Increased melee stats and unbreakable on Warp Fire Throwers. That could actually make Warp Fire Throwers worthwhile. Improved melee stats cause fear on Doom Flares, a Doom Wheel with regeneration. Wow. And longer range rattling guns. All very cool. On the other side of things, obviously I'm not quite as excited for the Lizardmen as I am for Skaven, but it's nice to see the Lizardmen getting some love because they've been in a pretty poor spot for a long time in Warhammer, and I'm really glad to see them coming up somewhat. So they can now sacrifice to Sotek to build up and get special banners, followers, weaponry, Regiments of Renown, etc. Finally getting some kind of spell that evokes Sotek, manifesting an aspect of the Serpent God in battle to deal damage. That sounds to me like a Vortex spell, but hopefully it would be at least a very powerful Vortex spell. They're getting the Red-Crested Skink Chief, which is a melee skink that can ride a Horned One, a Ripperdactyl, or an Ancient Stegodon. All great options. And, of course, new unique units. Red-Crested Skinks, which are skinks with armor-piercing damage. Very cool. And you saw in the trailer, you saw a skink carrying just a massive gold hammer, which is sort of hilarious. Salamanders, which hurl fireballs and cause fear and are fast. So, probably sounds like a nice medium or light cavalry flanking unit. The Ancient Salamander, on the other hand, is a single entity monster, as if the Lizardmen needed more of those. Which does flaming attacks and causes terror, and makes the target more vulnerable to flame attacks. So that's very interesting, and Ancient Salamander plus Salamander Hunting Pack might be a very interesting combination for that reason. Ripperdactyls, anti-infantry flyers with AP damage, could be excellent at contesting the skies against some of the more powerful air factions, and of course attacking archers, other infantry units, that sort of thing. The Engine of the Gods, which can use the Burning Alignment beam attack and protects nearby friendly units. I don't know what that means exactly. Probably some kind of aura that you have to buy. Stacking resistances can be kind of a problem in this game, so I'm not sure what effect that is going to have, but it could be very interesting. And the Ark of Sotek, which can summon a vortex of poison-dealing serpents around itself in combat. Regiments of Renown, Bolts of Lightning from an Ancient Stegodon. That sounds terrifying. Star Chamber Guardians, Temple Guard with expert charge defense, so charge defense against all magic attacks and Guardian. Oh, baby. Those guys are gonna suck to deal with. Colossadon Hunters with bonus versus large on Ripperdactyls, so flying armor-piercing bonus versus large units. Yes, please, I'll take 4. The Popopak Cohort, Cold One Spear Riders without Primal Instinct, so they don't rampage, Vanguard deployment, and immune to psychology. Very, very solid. Very, very potent. Cold One Spear Riders have pretty good stats to kind of compensate for the fact that their rampage makes them run off in different directions. So the Popopak cohort might be extremely powerful. The Legion of Chaka, the Shield of Chaka ability, so missile resistance, significant missile resistance to nearby friendly units. I don't know what significant is. Might be 20%, might be 30%, but it's going to go a long way towards covering one of the weaknesses of all those single entity monsters. So I would expect to see the Legion of Chaka a lot in multiplayer. The Umbral Tide, so salamanders with stock and perfect vigor. That's a very dangerous combination. Salamanders, so fast, armor piercing. Well, I don't know if they're armor piercing actually. Fast flaming attack, perfect vigor. That's a good combination. Very good. The cohort of Sotek. The cohort of Sotek have the Refuse to Die ability, which temporarily halts hit point loss. I'm not sure what to think about that. That is something new. I don't think we've ever seen anything like that before. I am intensely curious to see what that is. And the Paha Sentinels, which have 20% physical resistance and drop Rocks of Sundering. So they have Sundering damage on their rock drop attack, reducing target armor. All of these sound really, really cool. I think this DLC promises to A, significantly buff a couple of factions that really, really needed some love, and B, really shake up the meta. I'm not sure what all is going to happen. I haven't played Lizardmen nearly as much as Skaven, so I couldn't tell you exactly what's going to happen with all of this for the Lizardmen. It looks to me, speaking of multiplayer primarily, it looks to me like mostly what this does is it gives the Lizardmen the ability to really, really stack some resistances and have a super tough, hard-as-nails blob that the enemy will have an incredibly hard time dealing with. Plus, it gives them some more air power in the form of the Ripperdactyl Riders and some more fast flankers that might be a little bit more reliable. The Salamander Hunting Pack and all of that. So it kind of, those are all kind of geared towards forcing the enemy, it seems like, and obviously this is just me spitballing based on what I've seen so far. It seems like that's probably designed to kind of force the enemy to try and deal with your blob, because you have the Salamander Hunting Packs and the Ripperdactyls to contest their mobility, and attack their vulnerable rear line units, ranged units, artillery, all that sort of thing. Potentially, salamanders will be faster than like feral cold ones. Doubtless more expensive, probably more effective, and so it might give them some more punch in fighting those rear line fights. So the ideal here, I think, is that your fast units, the salamanders and the Ripperdactyls, rip up the enemy units that can deal with your blob, and then force the enemy into coming into a grind-out blob fight, which, because you have, you know, the Legion of Chaka, or the cohort of Sotek, or the Star Chamber Guardians giving Guardian to your Lord, all of that stuff, because you have this stuff and an Ancient Stegodon with the Engine of the Gods that's giving you, I don't know, a word save or something, and an AoE poison auras, things like that. Because you have all this stuff stacked on top of each other, you can win the grind out fight very efficiently. That seems to me like it's what the Lizardmen are being pushed towards, which is, we'll see how it goes. Sometimes those grindy fights can be very boring, but sometimes they can be very interesting if, you know, both sides are contesting how they're going to enter the grind very effectively. For the Skaven, on the other hand, the Skaven are really doubling down on not doing that, on not having that grind out infantry line, because what they're getting ranged units and fast cavalry. The Doomflayers are, at least I think, supposed to be relatively fast, probably similar speed to the Doom Wheel, or maybe a little bit faster. But so what they've got is, you've got long-range armor-piercing sniper guns that will contest against single-entity monsters, flyers, cavalry, all that kind of stuff. So the Warlock Jezzails will be highly effective at killing high-value targets from a long way away. The Rattling Guns, I don't know how effective they're going to be. Like I said, it kind of depends on what their range is. If their range is really short, they're going to be worthless, pretty much no matter how powerful they are, just because ranged units with very short range can't get off hardly any shots before they're locked in melee. But if they have a long enough range to spin up and get a few volleys off before anyone reaches them, and if the slow effect is actually meaningful, if it's enough to, if it starts early enough to catch the enemy outside of their charge animation, and if it does enough slowing to actually, give the Rattling guns an extra volley or two before the enemy reach them, then it could be very, very important. In particular, the slowing from the Rattling guns will doubtless stack with the slowing from Poison and the slowing aura from Gutter Runners. So you may be able to stack slows to make a relatively fast unit that's trying to flank you all of a sudden be moving at like minus 60 or 70% speed. So, your 90 speed Wolf Riders, your 92 speed Wolf Riders, all of a sudden are running around at like speed 30 or 40 something. That could be an extremely potent combination. I don't know how well Rattling guns are going to do in the front line against like infantry, but we'll kind of see. If you hit, on the other hand, if it is actually a heavy slow effect, like a minus 30 or 40% slow, and you start hitting infantry with it, well, that could be a notable change. The Doomflayers, I really don't know how effective they're going to be. That's kind of just really up to CA's balancing, to the stats and such, and the price, of course. But if they are, in fact, a multi-unit, like chariot, a multi-model chariot unit that has high armor-piercing damage and high mass designed to punch through enemy lines, they could be a real game changer for the Skaven, because so far the Skaven don't really have that. They've got Doom Wheels, and Doom Wheels are great, and Doom Wheels are used very commonly for that reason, but Doom Wheels are also expensive single entities that are relatively vulnerable to a large number of counters. If you can have a unit of Doomflayers instead to do that job at, 900 or 1,000 gold instead of 1,400, and have multiple models, so getting caught once doesn't destroy them, and they're a little bit less vulnerable to being shot out by artillery, well, then all of a sudden Skaven can play the flanking game a little bit harder. In particular, so this is all making Skaven a much more dangerous defensive faction, weirdly enough, as well as opening up the possibility for them to go full mobility. You could have a Warlock Master on a Doom Wheel or a Doomflayer. You can bring Doomflayers, maybe another Doom Wheel. You can bring the Wheels of Doom or the Dwarf Thing Menace. And you could have a highly vulnerable and stealth, a very skirmishy and stealthy army. You could do things like, you can have stalking Rattling guns to support you. You can have stalking snipers, Natty Boobo's sharpshooters, and the Teethbreakers combined with Eshin units and some fast cavalry, I think could make a very dangerous, hard to engage army that can really pick its engagements and tear the enemy apart from long range without really giving much up. Now, obviously, this is just, once again, me spitballing. I don't know what the balancing is going to be. All I know is I'm incredibly hyped for this. What I need to do, actually, is I need to get my fucking SSD into my computer so that I can play the game with the loading screens being reasonable length. But definitely look for me to be doing videos or possibly a stream on the Prophet and the Warlock when it comes out, which will be in 2 weeks. 2 weeks as of yesterday. I'm super excited. Also, this is cheap. $8 for all this. Yes, please. Thank you much. I'm really excited. The Skaven are my favorite Total War Warhammer 2 faction, and this is... Honestly, I haven't played the game all that much the last couple of months, and part of it has been that I've kind of had the feeling that I've seen most of what the game has to offer, and I just don't have the time to devote to it to become really, really high tier at multiplayer. Like, I don't have the time to practice enough to get as good as a lot of the guys who are playing multiplayer competitively. But this promises to bring me back into the game, because these are the holes that the Skaven had in their roster, and I think this in combination with another competitive couple of Lord choices, because right now it's just Skrulk in multiplayer. It's all Skrulk all the time. I got bored of Skrulk a long time ago. I play with other Lords, but you cannot shake the feeling that you're just hamstringing yourself by taking like Tretch or Queek or whatever into a multiplayer battle as Skaven. If there are a couple other competitive options, and if these units are effective in their role, then the Skaven roster is set to become a lot more dangerous and a lot more varied, which will, force the enemy to account for a lot of different things. So I'm excited in any case. Thanks for watching. Like I said, watch this space. There will be more on the DLC coming in the next couple of weeks, or within, after the next couple of weeks. And I'll see you then.